Hello, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My talk is going to cover the case around my illegal dismissal from the Istanbul Technical University's Turkish Music State Conservatory. In 2018, the Palace of Justice at Çağlayan, Istanbul, declared all of the inflicted measures illegal and created a precedent in Turkish academic employment law. As my case continues with its routine proceedings on the university's appeal, no compensation has so far been paid. To complement Ellen Bakulina's amiable introduction, you may visit my website to learn more about my artistic and academic work. I frequently combine topics in harmonic theory and ethnomusicology. Much of my work is a case against westernization by proposing a bridge from going from the west into the east and not vice versa, in order to show that every musical culture can in fact develop out of its own material. I have been consulted as an expert on Middle Eastern music since 2003, through lectures, workshops, academic publications, press articles, radio programs, and also many uncredited reports on the request of festivals. I have also promoted Turkish musicians in many projects. I have, on behalf of the Music Research Center MIAM at the Istanbul Technical University, arbitrated collaborations with two well-known ensembles of contemporary music from Europe, including paid commissions and festivals, etc. And during my tenure at the Turkish Music State Conservatory, I hosted the school's only composer seminar and a workshop in experimental makam music, along with guest lectures by visiting composers. I still collaborate with Turkish universities. I also have been featured on Turkish national TV several times in recent years. I still travel to Turkey regularly in order to avoid further attacks. For the sake of these projects, I will keep my description of the institution as anonymous as possible. My summary is based on a more detailed report that was submitted to the court in 2015. It offers insight into practices of institutional violence during the wave of mass layoffs that Turkey saw in these years. The report shows that I should add that the university's president, the rector, was informed personally and thus implicated in the case and in the measures. I myself have never been participating in domestic politics. I think that this should be wrong. Foreigners should stay neutral. So the measures were unprovoked and motivated by xenophobia, as I will show. Most teachers of the conservatory who lost their jobs between 2012 and 2014 filed a joint lawsuit and were allowed to get back to their posts. My case turned out more severe since I was a foreigner and in addition also isolated in Germany, which meant that I basically was completely alone. Yeah. The nationalists, however, I should add, the nationalists who founded the Conservatory for Turkish Music in 1974 were originally only concerned with domestic ethnic minorities. In recent years, they have targeted foreigners, often based on conspiracy theories that have been inspired, sometimes with reason, by foreign treatment of Turkey. On the other hand, the influence of religious sects, such as the Fethullah Gülen movement in academia, should not be underestimated. I would call them secret societies in academia, pose a real threat to intellectual freedom, not only to individual academics, but also to the offices that they acquire through their form of nepotism. We are not talking about some minor disrespect or mobbing on the internet, but about lasting damage to individual lives and to the intellectual climate in general. Well, while I was a student in the early 2000s at Karlsruhe Music University, my inclination for the Middle East was at times met with resistance, especially in the German contemporary music scene. For this and other reasons, I decided to move to Turkey in 2007 to pursue my doctoral studies. In Istanbul, I was met with an academic community, an English-speaking community also, who shared my interests for the first time. Also during this period, the research center where I studied, Erol Üçen Müzik İleri Araştırmalar Merkezi, abbreviated MIAM, had some of its best teachers and best students and offered a high-quality curriculum modeled after McGill University in Canada. In 2008, the Ankara State Conservatory also appointed me in the rank of a foreign expert in composition, where I already taught in Turkish, I would like to add. In 2011, I defended my doctoral dissertation at MIAM. I was approached for the first time by the principal of that institution, of that center, and of the Turkish Music State Conservatory regarding appointment as a teacher of composition. I first declined, went to the USA and came back after several months and then accepted and was appointed in June 2012 as assistant professor in composition at the Istanbul State Conservatory for Turkish Music. However, by September 2012, the balance of power had shifted. The President of the Republic of Turkey, Abdullah Gül, had appointed a new rector, so a new president to the university with ties to AKP, and as a consequence, my mentor was discharged from directing both MIAM and the Turkish Music Conservatory. At the conservatory, he was replaced by Adnan Koç, a bağlama player with so far no notable academic record. In this interview from 2013, you can read about Adnan Koç's ideas to nationalize the education system, which its predecessor actually had tried to widen by opening additional programs. Koç's arguments are based on common resentments against the westernizing policy of the early Kemalist period of the Republic, confounding those with the actually quite idealistic intentions of foreigners like Béla Bartók and Paul Hindemith, who have to stand in and be accused of ideas to tamper with the domestic music out of secret foreign agendas. The first measures occurred by way of neglect. In the beginning, it just looked as if I was faced with a chaotic environment. So, for example, secretaries sent me to the wrong police station to register for my work visa. They also cancelled my contract and replaced it with one signed by the new president, which caused a delay in the payment of my salary. The head of my department refused to discuss the curriculum with me. He told me that foreigners were neither allowed to hold an academic title, such as assistant professor in my case, nor to dispose of a classroom of their own. He also held the false opinion that foreigners were not working enough and that they were receiving salaries higher than Turks. According to my doctoral advisor, I had been appointed explicitly in order to show young composers new ways into the domestic tradition. Until 2013, she would serve both as head of the Conservatory's musicology department and as of the whole Music Research Center MIAM, and continue to defend me in the ensuing discrimination. During the first months when I was employed there, I was accommodated by the musicology department as long as the composition department refused to provide me with a room. Later she fell ill in 2013 with terminal cancer and retired. The premises where I was assigned to teach in the composition department had no equipment and were located underneath the dancing room of the folklore department. I designed my syllabuses based on various literature I had brought from Germany. Because my registration in the automation system for grading was obstructed, I almost missed the deadline to submit my grades and failed to attend an additional test date which the school had installed for the first time. Later I would find out that such incidents were being used in order to discredit me. The head of the department forwarded so-called complaints from students to me that on my own research turned out to be quite the opposite. In fact, composition students had asked to study with me because I was the only composer with an international career in the building. During my tenure, I repeatedly figured as the most active staff member regarding extracurricular activities in the school's semi-annual reports. Although my doctorate thesis has been one of the most widely read dissertations come from the Research Center MIAM, I was excluded from the university's alumni programs as well as from the conservatory's own symposiums. The department's practice of taking large amounts of overtime hours got the ball rolling. Among the department's inner circle, it was custom to collect the fees for overtime hours without actually appearing in those classes. Because I was a popular teacher, students approached me with all kinds of information about the department. Some of them reported that they had seen their instructors only once or twice during the semester. In one case, students from the Tonmeister department were repeating a class over and over again because their teacher didn't show up and claimed he hadn't seen them. I was charged with extra hours without being consulted. By spring 2014, according to the official curriculum, I was the busiest teacher in school with more than double of my required workload, considering that my salary was equal only to a half-time job and not enough to cover expenses in Istanbul. In general, students were not able to work independently and required a strict syllabus in high school-style classroom manner. I grew quite tired and became sick many times. I was also assigned to classes that belonged to the overstaffed musicology department, where teachers busied themselves with planning symposiums instead of teaching. The head of the composition department threatened me with sudden contract termination. Well, out of experience, I had a feeling that I should not apply officially to the university senate regarding these topics, because they would normally be treated as a complaint and answered with force. In order to understand the terms of my contract, I tried to reach the assistant principal of the conservatory for an informal meeting. But when she refused, a friend from another school within the Istanbul Technical University referred me to the university's general secretary, who had a reputation of being a good listener. On March 13th, 2014, I visited the general secretary in his office on the main campus. By chance, the president of the university was also in the building, and he was sent for, and looked at my contract, and he confirmed that the overtime hours assigned to me were illegal, and also that I in fact could hold my title, also name myself with this title of assistant professor, that there were many foreign teachers in the university and they were actually treated quite well compared to me. So the president himself promised to help me by contacting the deputy head of my department. However, instead of receiving help, I was ostracized. My colleagues stopped talking to me, and rumors were spread that I had visited the university's president to explicitly backstab the conservatory. During the summer holidays of 2014, an unofficial and in the end unsuccessful investigation was launched to cancel my academic title. The principal's secretary used to phone me and request documents which in the end she would declare unacceptable. The deputy head of my department spied on students' Facebook and fabricated lies by reinterpreting my extracurricular activities with my analysis class, which was actually done for them to meet a well-known composer who was visiting Istanbul, and because they were actually by now friends of me. And in this climate, some students felt compelled to confront the deputy of the department on social media without my consent, actually. One of them, by irony, the one who had actually remained silent, was physically assaulted on the street by a composition professor. Students who, without my intervention, had collected signatures to my support were threatened with expulsion. The principal's office tried to make it look as if I was gathering a political movement, which could be interpreted actually as a terrorist organization and held against me as a grave offense. The head of the composition department filed a complaint that was allegedly based on accusations by a group of students who I had never met. In July 2014, despite the holiday season, I was prompted to appear in school in the early morning to sign this document. I was not allowed to see details about the allegations. They consciously misled me by making me sign the document without informing me that by doing so, I waived my right to object. This document accuses me of, modifying my course hours, which was a common practice among my colleagues, since my classes contained many students and we had to find dates that were suitable to everybody. Then it accused me of changing the content of my courses, which is also meaningless because I was never told what to teach, and my classes offered a much higher level of education than the other classes, because it was based on only German teaching system. Then I was also accused of objecting to the additional course workload, which is, of course, we now know that this was, first of all, it was illegal, that I couldn't work more. Actually, I wasn't allowed to work more than was stated in my contract. And also regarding the fact that these courses couldn't be paid, I had been working over hours without being paid for it beforehand. No? Then in the end, they tell me that I have problems with my performance and with my communications with the students, which is also completely meaningless because I was the most accessible teacher in the department. That was why for that reason I was so popular, because everybody had my cell phone number and everybody could reach me anytime. I was constantly in contact with my students. The document, of course, also states that my contract could be terminated at any time, especially it could happen if these accusations would be repeated, which they could do any time because they could just accuse me of anything. But it was a false statement, I have to add, because as I learned in 2015, they were not actually able, they were not allowed to fire me so easily. So now we come into fall 2014, the last of my semesters at the conservatory. My name appeared for the first time on the conservatory's website, but it was misspelled, and neither my academic title nor my doctoral degree that I had earned from the elite institute of the university was mentioned. There was also a rumor being spread that they already had a new teacher who should come to stand in for me as a foreigner, actually a musician from Mannheim in Germany. That was the rumor. I cannot completely confirm that. A person with double citizenship, who was actually a Turk, who was going to stand in for me as a foreigner. In 2014, in September 2014, the cleaning lady requested the key to the office that by then I was occupying. The next day, the key was not returned to me, and I was forced to remove all my materials and to leave the building. From now on, I was not allowed to teach in that building again. In order to do my work, I had to apply for a room in different departments, always prior to the actual course. Sometimes we ended up in the library, or sometimes also on the schoolyard just, and of course it was difficult to work under these conditions. Most directors of other departments met my requests with little or no sympathy. They saw in me just a troublemaker. And behind my back, what I didn't know that until the end of September, the composition department actually used this case also in order to tell others that I wasn't coming to class because I wasn't in the building. One day, when I found out about that, I was assaulted by the head of the department and by his deputy. They dragged me into a room without camera surveillance, and the deputy threw a chair at me, and the head of the department shouted at me in Turkish. He actually uses the familiar address, like in German, du, sen yoksun, sen bittin, translated could be like you don't exist anymore, you're finished. Following this incident, I was only allowed to enter the department with an armed escort of the security personnel. A committee was assembled to investigate in the events according to the department's complaint. I was interrogated on November 3rd, 2014 by 3 academics and one of the university's attorneys. I would like to emphasize that since February 2014 this affair had taken all my time and all my energy. I had written numerous letters to the principal's office and searched for help from prominent friends in Turkey and Germany in countless unsuccessful attempts. For example, the brother of a former prime minister of Turkey wrote a letter with me together to the university's president, but the letter was never answered. I also tried to reach the board of directors of a German-Turkish symposium that was being held in October 2014 at the conservatory, but nobody listened to me. The committee required me to compose a lengthy report to my defense. They had no pity regarding my plea that I just wanted to work here and to live in Istanbul, that I had a life there, that I was about to get married with a Turkish woman. On November 19th, 2014, I was charged with a so-called warning on alleged opposition against authority. The chairwoman of this committee actually is still connected to a German university. She has never answered my request for explanation. For the first time on that day, I was invited by the principal of the conservatory to meet him, and I was shown this document, and then he so-called explained to me that he basically forwarded anything written he received from my department, and that as a foreigner I should be prepared that I could be fired anytime, that I was just a single, like a seasonal worker or something like that. By December 2014, my health deteriorated to the extent that I required a serum infusion at a hospital. In January 2015, I was erased from the official curriculum of the conservatory's automation system. On the phone, the principal secretary told me that I should know that I had been dismissed. They had also prevented me from receiving 6 months of unemployment benefit to which I was entitled by entering a false code into my file. The personnel at the unemployment office recommended me to file a lawsuit, which I tried together with my then still girlfriend, and after some search we found an attorney on the island of Büyükada, Istanbul, who was willing to represent my case. And he predicted a large sum, a very large recompensation that I hadn't expected, because there were multiple irregularities of which I didn't know. 2 of my former students agreed to serve as witnesses, and I received written statements from former conservatory graduates, so from conservatory graduates I would say, who now served at different universities. The lawsuit was filed, of course, with borrowed money. As especially German acquaintances in the music scene were painting me as someone who just hates Turks and told me to remain silent, I felt compelled to win this case in order to clear my name. Otherwise, the university's various allegations would still impede my attempts to find work. The Swiss ensemble, for whom I had arranged a long-term collaboration with the Institute MIAM, eliminated me from their program without explanation. Maybe I should add that the director of this ensemble was at the time the president of the Swiss section of the ISCM. At MIAM, my former supervisor in composition, who is a well-known composer, treated me unprovokedly like an enemy. It also seems that he caused the estrangement from a high-profile Columbia professor with whom I was friends, who used to write recommendation letters for me, and upon his visit to Turkey, and afterwards he basically broke contact with me. There were also other foreigners employed at these institutions at MIAM and the Turkish Music Conservatory. They didn't speak with me after 2014. However, after 2018, some of them tried to find out how I had managed to sue the university, because they wanted to try the same, out of different reasons, of course. One of them requested the name of my lawyer, which I gave him, of course. In 2015, violence against foreigners in the city rose to such a level during the year that we decided to move to the Izmir province in the hope that I would find work there. According to the evidence, the police was already intercepting our cell phones, and the university was monitoring my communication with other conservatories. Between 2016 and 2018, my wife and I lived in extreme poverty in Urla in the Gulf of Izmir. Due to debts, we were cut off from water supply and electricity many times and exposed to violence because some local right-wing mafiosi found out that we had no pence and that we couldn't afford a lawyer to defend ourselves. Even after I won the lawsuit, an international symposium cancelled me from their program, probably on a reported complaint by the Istanbul Technical University. In Urla, a mad driver also tried to run me over with his car and shouted at me. In February 2018, following the evaluation by an independent expert, the Palace of Justice at Çağlayan, Istanbul, decided in my favor. My case created a precedent in Turkish employment law, which seemed spectacular at the time because no syndicate had accepted to assist me. The case was widely publicized and picked up also in Germany by news outlets. Organizations such as Academics at Risk, however, told me that I wouldn't be entitled to help since I'm German and could just apply for welfare. However, they forgot about my wife and overlooked the fact that social benefits won't get you back into academic work. The multiple delays in my career should be acknowledged as an accident and not as a sign of my inability. With the help from my family, my wife and I managed to move to Germany. Multiple losses and post-traumatic stress continued to haunt us. Rumors about my alleged political involvement or professional inability are still being spread by people I have never met. One should not forget that oppressive institutions throw all sorts of things at you, and often these accusations are just lies. They should be evaluated beforehand. You should not just accept them. I may finish my presentation with the following suggestions. If you know someone who has reported similar experiences, don't hesitate to help them. Solidarity is the most important asset in such a situation. Had anyone stayed by my side during those years, my academic career wouldn't have taken such a blow. If you are facing mobbing yourself, you must know that you are already in danger once the institution starts blaming you. They will turn everything that actually makes you stand out against you. As I have shown in my personal story, institutional oppression seems to be very close to patterns of passive-aggressive behavior. They will try to make you look guilty. They will try to paint you like someone who is a hothead and who just forces them out of his behavior to get rid of him. No? You will invest most of your energy in defending yourself and miss to notice what is being spoken behind you. They will make it look as if by defending yourself you just act out of prejudice. As in the attempt to strip me of my academic title, they will also make you look like an imposter. They will be assisted by other institutions, especially abroad, because no one likes to believe that a big institution, a big university is run by corruption. Your case will look like an offense against the very system. In my experience, you cannot win this battle without consulting an attorney right when the measures start. My biggest mistake was to presume that everything was just a misunderstanding. I tried to reason and to show them my good intentions, but there was no misunderstanding. They just wanted me to go right from the beginning. The best advice that I got during especially the so-called second phase of my presentation came from the contemporary music director of one of Germany's broadcasting stations. Notate everything that happens in a diary, accompanied by exact dates. Based on such a report, you actually can make a case and go to court. This is what I did. Thank you very much.